Hey there, and welcome to my episode 1. I don't even really know what that means. This is a test to see how I can do this. So, Foundry episode 1 is going to be about this. Overview and UI. So when you open Foundry, you're going to find game worlds, game systems, add-on modules, configuration, update software. Try and stay away from this. If they ever update from like 10 to 11 or whatever, that kind of update, you want to stay away from that because all the modules will most likely not be supported. So config you won't mess with either. Just game worlds, game systems, add-on modules. So these are a bunch of modules that I have added. I think they're great. I'll go through them in a later video. But they're all pretty great. Game systems, you're going to want to download D&D 5e 5th edition for all the rules and shit like that. And then game worlds, you're just going to create your own. Creating one is pretty easy. You just click in here, type in the title. You can do a background image if you want. You can start putting a world description if you want to. Nobody really ever sees this except you. So we'll hit launch world. And joining game sessions. So first of all, I have all of my characters added. You could do character names if you wanted to. I am set up as the game master. There is no passwords by default, which is really nice. Also in world description, I've put my Zoom link and the Foundry link. For people that want to play my games here, I'll show you how to set that up. So let's join game session. And probably one of the very first things you'll want to do, so this is going to be totally blank, and maybe I should start this from scratch, but the things that I want to show you is if you immediately go over to settings and you go to edit world, this is where you're going to be able to put in those links. And you can set up the future dates for sessions right here if you want. Again, I don't think anybody sees that shit, but user management is also something that you're going to want to do. Here's all of my characters that I've added. It does show a password, but it is not a password. Configuring permissions is something if you want to have people be assistant DMs and stuff. I haven't really gotten into that, so I'm not sure. So you just create additional user, put in their name. Don't enter anything for password, save, and return. So in the upper right, well, let's look at settings here first. And again, this is going to look a little bit different to you if you don't have modules, the ones that I have set up. But the first one is going to be the chat log. Second one is your combat encounters. There is a lot of modules, again, that I have set up here. Even the idea of seeing the chat down here at the bottom and this dice tray. Those are all modules. But this is where you're going to see your combat. So you can end combat, start combat. Each of these little things is roll for everyone, roll for just your NPCs or your monsters. You can link to a scene. I haven't used that yet. Reset initiative. And then this right here can be somewhat helpful. So combat tracker settings. I have HP value showing up here as well as AC. So this shows the character's ACs, and then it also shows their hit points, which is, I don't know, kind of nice. Moving over here is all of our scenes. So scenes are going to be your maps. So I have, for the Netherdeep, I have them in the different chapters, well, different sections that I've run. And then when you click into them, it's going to show, let's see if Leave Taking has a lot more. Okay, so I have 2 different sessions, Road to the Emerald Loop, and I've got all of these different scenes, and then I have Road to Bazzoxan, all of these different scenes. The stuff that you set up in here is like Fog of War, or if characters can see everything. I always have everything seen in my combat. There hasn't been any reason for me to, I don't know, do something in the dark. But if you want to, you can have, Fog of War, which is exploration, and you can also change your maps to rely on the player character's sight. So if you do have something in the dark, you're going to want to turn that on. So characters that don't have dark vision, characters that only have blind sight or tremor sight, things like that, that would be appropriate here. You can add more maps with that. You can add more folders like that. I think it's really important to have a good workflow here, like hierarchy of folders or whatever. And that's all within the Foundry folder in, I don't know, whatever directory that shit is. Actors are any movable, playable, spell casting, attacking thing in D&D. So I have a folder for combat, and then each of those is going to be the enemies or enemies or heroes, we'll call it, NPCs or monsters in each of those. All of my heroes are the characters that I have that are the player characters. They're all in here. So I've got, Apollogar, the Dark Hammer if he does spiritual weapon. I also have Tordran if he's enlarged. I also want to start collecting wild shapes. So if by chance Apollo has a bunch of wild shapes that she likes to use, I'll just have them. So there's Crocodile and Black Bear. I can just drag them in. Moving over here are items. I don't use those. Journal, I don't use it. Rollable tables, card stacks, playlists. I don't use any of those. I do use the compendiums a lot. When I'm pulling in monsters for some of my maps, I will use the D&D Beyond Monsters folder. This is really the only folder that I use in all of these. What are all of these? We'll go through that at a very different date. But the ones that you really probably want to know is probably Token Magic Book of Fire, JB2A sequencer mods or macros, and FX Master. I'll show you what those are, but really you would keep those down here and just like adding flavor as a DM. And then settings, there's some really good stuff here. So your invitation links. If somebody is playing at your house, you'll use this one because they're on your Wi-Fi. If you're using the internet, you'll use this one. If you get a little X here, we're probably going to have to implement a software called ngrok. It's pretty easy. You set up through terminal. I've done all the homework. Super easy. Tour management is actually pretty cool in Foundry 10. They have a new tour of the new features. Kind of cool. For a beginner user, it might be really nice. User management, we did see. Edit World, we saw. Manage modules and configure settings are really the ones you'll probably hang out in. So manage modules are going to be every module that I have enabled. You'll notice that some of them are turned off because they are version 9. I was foolish and I upgraded to version 10 without thinking, and a lot of my mods stopped working. So you can switch them off to see if they're working, but most of these I think are all good to go. The ones that I've turned on, I can download a list, a JSON file, and send things to you if you want to get those turned on. I love all of them. So that's how you turn them on. Now, configure settings is a very large menu, and maybe not one that you want to go through, but if you look over here to the left, these are going to be all of the new settings that are offered by the modules that you've downloaded. For instance, we have Dice So Nice. If you go in here, Dan, I'm sure you're already familiar with this if you're watching this video. You can hit your 3D dice settings. You can change all of the colors and whatever for each of your dice. There's a lot of PC-facing settings through a lot of these, which is really cool. But going into them, you can really change a lot of how Foundry works. For example, these are your core settings. So this is just Foundry standard settings. If you cruise down here, configure permissions is something you may want to look at. So these are the permissions that a player, trusted player, assistant GM, and game master. So again, I don't use either of these middle ones. I only use players and game masters. Some things that are really cool that you can turn off and turn on are in here. For example, display ruler measurement. I want my PCs and my game master to be able to use the ruler feature without it showing on everybody else's screen. I think it's kind of distracting, so I have it just straight up turned off. There's a lot of stuff in here also that I don't use, but that is one example of something in here that you could turn off or turn on and then hit save. Another one that you'll probably spend a lot in, or not, maybe I'll just go through and give you my settings, is MIDI QOL. QOL stands for quality of life. There's a lot of very cool add-on features to Foundry. So MIDI QOL is a mod invented by somebody to make things way cooler and way more customizable in Foundry. So there's a lot of good shit in here. I don't have a lot of stuff turned on, but some of the stuff that is available is huge. So we'll click out of that. Also, when PCs log in, if they go to configure settings, is that in here or am I thinking of something different? Yeah, if you hit all, there's like maximum frame rate and performance mode. If people, I mean, if you're a DM that's using some like a lot of, I don't know, map effects and stuff like that, then somebody with an older computer might have to turn their performance mode down. So letting your PCs know about these two settings, if it's starting to get laggy, they can turn this stuff down, and it makes it a lot better. Okay, so that's all the settings. You can also hit this caret to throw things back in there. This is also the DM view that we're seeing here. I'll go full screen. I should have been doing that. Scroll wheel will go in and out. If you hold down the right mouse button, you can drag around. These icons over here, there's not a lot that I use. These are your token controls, which means you can move any of your characters. If you go down, these are going to be your measurement controls. So this is, again, going to be area of effects. So when I clicked that, it shows spheres, cones, rectangles, and rays. Clear templates, you can turn all of them off as well at the same time. Or if you do accidentally draw one, you can click on it and hit delete. Similarly, if you double click with some of the mods that I have, you can actually turn on some special effects. So like a blurring texture or something like that. That's not going to do a lot because I chose black. Either way, that's kind of cool. Select it, hit delete. Next one down is going to be tile controls, drawing tools, wall controls. Lighting controls is something that I do use, and if you do click on tile controls, drawing tools, you can draw walls. I use the draw polygon. You can draw walls where light doesn't shine past the wall. So if you really want to do like a nighttime kind of spooky lighting effect stuff, using drawing tools and drawing polygons, and then the lighting controls. So really quickly, we can just turn this nighttime and it'll transition to darkness, which is really cool. So if you have any lighting sources, which are easily drawn with this button here, I can just click my lighting source. And again, I can click into this and say, oh, it's going to be like 20 feet of light radius, right? Dim and then bright is different. I think it's like 20 feet of dim light and then like 5 feet of bright light. That's kind of cool. Lighting animations, again, I can put in this like ghostly light and it kind of has this weird effect. So if you wanted to create some like underwater effects and stuff like that, you could. Certainly adding a different color to it is something that could be kind of fun. Click in here and give it that kind of aqua vibe. Click back into the tokens. That's what they see. Kind of cool. Let's go back to lighting control. We'll go back to daytime. You can reset the fog of war. Again, I don't use it. Toggling DM vision is seeing what the players see or seeing what you see. I don't use sound control. I don't use journal notes. Effect controls, sometimes I will use to see these clouds moving through. There is some cool weather stuff. This is a mod as well. Particle effects, fog, birds, embers, things like that. That's kind of cool. Grid controls is also another mod that I've downloaded. It allows me to use maps that I've found online that have grids printed on them. If you can find maps that don't have grids, great, use those, because then it doesn't matter. You don't need to resize fucking anything. It's great. But if you find a really cool map that has a grid printed on it, you need to size that grid to the grid that's in Foundry, and that can kind of be a pain in the ass. This is where grid controls comes in handy. You can draw a 3x3. It's kind of like a step-by-step process that I will do. I'll do this first, and then I'll actually go to my map. Let's see, we're leaf taking, Aurora Watch in battle. If you right-click on any of your maps, you can go back to the Configure tab. And when you upload a map, you get this anyway. But if you click on Grid and then click this little measurement tool, you're able to offset the background image. So again, if you're using this mod and it's still just not perfect, I would go immediately to the background image offset. And I can show you how to do that in real time. It's actually pretty easy. But if you can get a map that doesn't have a grid, do it. Fucking is so irritating. Also for lighting in every one of my maps, again, I like token vision. This means that the combat map that you are currently on is not being governed by each of the players' ability to either see in darkness or have tremor sight or blind sight. If I was going to do something in the dark, I would probably have this turned on. For example, Apala just recently, I think, got some goggles of night, so she would have seen nothing in a completely pitch black combat scenario unless you guys were, casting dancing lights or there were torches or any natural or ambient light in there. Also, I have fog exploration turned off. I just want you to be able to see everything. I don't really care about the fog of war. That's usually used for dungeon crawls, but I don't use maps for dungeon crawls anyway. So when you're setting up your new maps, I always turn those both off. Again, unless you're going to be making one in the dark, then you may want to have token vision turned on. Ambience, I don't use any of this shit. Let's see. Let's go back up here to token control. So when we're controlling our characters, we can drag, right? We can select as many people as we need to. We can also use that shift trick, shift and command like you normally would select anything else. I'm unselecting now, holding shift. We also have down here is select targets. So this is kind of nice as well. So if you need to select a target or somebody that you're going to be attacking, this feature comes in really, really handy if you're using automated animations, which is another mod that I have. So as a player character or me as the DM playing as a monster, I would want to select people as a target in order to have the animated effects happen. That's something I want to bring more and more into my games. Notice yellow is neutral, green is player character, red is bad guy. You can select more than one by hitting command if you need to. I'm sorry, shift. That isn't working. How do I do this? I think you just select like that and then deselect. Maybe. Not sure. If you hold down Option, it's going to highlight all of the player characters and monsters and NPCs. That's me holding it off, holding it on. Also, if you click down, this type of pinging is now standard in Foundry. And if I hold down Option and ping, it's going to show this kind of red reticle as opposed to like this green one. Not sure how you want to use that, but that's kind of funny. Deselecting, I always forget how to effing do it. No. Okay, yeah, next one down, and then there's measure distance, so that's seeing my distance on where I want to go here. I do have a module called drag ruler, which is this one now, so it shows how many feet you can actually go. Let's see, this one is going to, looks like it's not working right now, which is very interesting. Let's take a look at our mods. Well, we're going to figure that out later. Drag ruler is a very cool feature that we'll use later. I have multi-attack as a DM. This doesn't have, I think, anything to do with the player characters. Unless they have multi-attack, then I think you can turn it on for your player characters. But here's a character like a Hezru. This guy does have multi-attack. So what it does is it analyzes the character and shows bite and claw. So if I'm going to be attacking as the Hezru and hit multi-attack, it's going to show bite and claw. I can set it as default and then roll for attack. Now, additionally, I have a lot of features turned on called better rolls. I forget what the other ones are, so I have it to speed up DM rolling. Again, it's going to show the attack roll for both. Do I know that they both hit? Maybe at 15 they do, and then I can roll damage from there, and it's going to roll damage for both. It's 31. It'll add them up for me, which is pretty bitchin'. So there's a lot of cool stuff there. Sequencer is only being used if you're using these animated effects down here. You can delete them all at once. You may notice this little action hub here. This is also another mod. Another cool feature to this, I think it's called Token HUD, Heads Up Display. Under Utility, you do have Remove from Combat, Make Invisible, End Turn, and Roll Initiative, which is great for all NPCs or monsters alike. Additionally, if you right-click on any character, you're going to show torches, you're going to show elevation, settings, which gets you to this particular token's settings. Not if you pull them into another map, they won't have this. This is really just the one that's on the map. And there's appearance, there's vision. If you want to turn your vision on, again, this is going to have to do with dark vision, stuff like that. This is part of a mod that was incorporated into the new Foundry called Perfect Vision. And now, if you can see, there's dark vision, monochromatic, and it changes all of that too. So if you happen to have monochromatic dark vision or whatever, everything's in black and white. You won't see color. I'm not going to go through this stuff here, except resources are really cool. I like to put the AC value as well as the hit points on the character, specifically monsters. So that I will go in a different video as well. But up here in the upper left, you're going to have your different maps. So now I've clicked on this one, but you'll see this little target reticle. That means that if anybody logs in using my link, it's going to take them to this spot. If I want to move everybody over here, I have to hit activate. And as soon as it does, everybody's going to go to that map. What else do I have here? Again, this is a mod if you need to just do some kind of standard rolling. These are called macros. So you actually get a bunch of, I think 5 banks of different macros. So if you're utilizing the modules that I do, like animated, what are they called? Automated animations, you could click on, say, Idoran here, and we can change these. So let's say this one's called concentration. So now if I click it, I know that you're concentrating. I do have some new features. I think that if you do cast, let's take a look at your spell book. If you do have something that is that requires concentration, it will actually cast something on you. Let's see. I know that my character Wolfric does. Let's go to spell books, find something with concentration. This does. Yep. And we are, yeah, sure, we can consume that. Do it here. Great. So this little icon means he's concentrating. Also, if I click on this in the heads up display, I believe I can turn, I thought you could turn concentration off. I don't remember, but that's okay. I thought that there was a way to do it, but I know that I'm concentrating because of that, and that's kind of a nice clue. Okay, what else? I think that's going to be good for the first video. That's going to be the overview of Foundry.